David Grigoryan. I'm a research fellow at Harvard University's Kennedy School and a founder of Policy for Armenia, a think tank. I want to thank our Swiss colleagues for taking this initiative. For those of us who've been on our barricades since 1988, since the unification movement, this means a lot to us. Thank you. I want to second Minister Oskanian's point that Nagorno-Karabakh has never been part of Azerbaijan. But I should go further. In fact, the League of Nations has given Armenia the title over Nagorno-Karabakh in 1920. I wonder if you gentlemen are aware of that, and if so, what role is that decision playing in your deliberations? That's my first question. The second question is, the current Armenian government is very much responsible for what's happening in Nagorno-Karabakh now, both in 2020 and 2023, for reasons I think many in this audience are aware of. The question is, is that government supporting your initiative? And if not, why not? I know the answer to that, but I'd like the people to hear your response for the record. And thank you again.
I have to say that the Armenian government has to answer that question. We can't speak for the Armenian government. We can imagine, in the same way that we can, what their reasons are. But we do know, it's simply a fact, that they are under enormous pressure. That, again, this is my personal view, that what is being discussed now between Azerbaijan and Armenia, it's called a peace process, is really a surrender process to finalize the surrender of Armenia, unconditional surrender of Armenia to Azerbaijan and Turkey, for one nation, two states. And it's in a bind. And we can criticize, of course, the Armenian government and so on, and I leave it to Armenians to do that. That's not my business. But the fact is, they are acting under duress. That's just the fact. Maybe they could do a better job. That's not my business. But it is an act of surrender that's being played out right now. And they do not have an entirely free hand. And one of the reasons is that they have been abandoned by the entire world. They've been abandoned by their traditional supporter and ally, Russia, which actually helped them in the first war. They're not there anymore at the table. They've been abandoned by the United States. There are no powers that can support them. So they're in an extremely weak position, and we should not have such high expectations of what their role is. We would not expect them to come out and endorse this peace initiative. I will say that I personally engaged with Armenian diplomats. Nobody has discouraged me, said, don't do this. We understand the signals that are given. We have not had the door closed. We have not been told that this should not happen. Therefore, we assume that if it's done in a good way and in a good spirit, it will not be opposed. That's our hope. But of course, the diplomats don't make all of the decisions. There could be some kind of decision from high up, just as there is in the United States. There can be decisions from the top that change that. But we operate from the point of CSI, which is assisting the Vardhan's committee of Karabakhis and the parliamentarians. We move forward, assuming that this process will help Armenia too, by providing conditions for stability in the region, and that it is not contrary, it doesn't undermine, should not undermine in any way whatever discussions there are between Yerevan and Baku about a new peace treaty.
The second question, legal nations.
What was it? Sorry, can you repeat the last
first question? Were you aware of the League of Nations 1920 decision to give Armenia the title over Nagorno-Karabakh?
Well, you know, I'm certainly aware, and I'm sure that at least.
Yeah, most likely our colleagues from this parliament don't know much history details but they understand the politics of it, and what they've done, I think, is superb and has been very useful. I'm sure they may do further reading, have more information about the history of Artsakh. What you mentioned is a historical fact that strengthens the legal arguments. But we got to come, to terms with the fact that this is more of a political process rather than a legal one. Legal arguments substantiate our political positions, but yet at the end of the day, it's going to be a political decision. And what the Swiss parliamentarians have done, they've taken a political decision by adopting that motion, and now we expect to get international support that we put this in motion.
With that, we will close for Q&A, but I will invite, after the session is finished, please feel free to come and speak to our honored guests. I want to express thanks and our gratitude to the delegation for making the way to DC. Thank you to all of you for making the time to be here. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Please take those pamphlets with you, and we'd appreciate any support on the letter, and we look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you for coming.